Who's ready to win the day in sports? I know you are. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com, Monday through Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Justin Fensterman, and let's break everything down from a fantasy sports perspective.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Justin Fensterman, and welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily here on the Elite Plus Network, powered by FantasyGuru.com. We're on every single day, your free stream, kind of like your arm, your extension from the good old FG, where you can find this. We got a lot of merch. We got a merch store. Going to talk all about that. It's such an exciting time. You could give me a follow at FSD Sports, FENSTY Sports on X, on Instagram, at FSD on TikTok. And today is going to be fun with talking football. Going to talk also some league format setups. I'll get to that in just a second. But today, beyond, of course, talking with you about everything football related, I got to also say this, we're going to have a little bit of fun today, too, because I was going through my drawer and I found a shirt I haven't worn in ages. Not a lot fits these days, but one that does actually is one of my favorites right here from arguably, I'd say, top 10 Saturday Night Live skit of all time. Christopher Walken in the Blue Oyster Cult skit for Don't Fear the Reaper. I got to have more cowbell. I got a fever. The only prescription is more cowbell. That's one of the best. Please tell me what your favorite Saturday Night Live skits are involving Will Ferrell, because Will Ferrell playing that cowbell makes that whole skit. And I think, and I've said this before, Will Ferrell is the best and most versatile Saturday Night Live character of all time. Guy had 2 best of DVDs for a reason before anybody else did. And I know it sounds stupid when I say that, but he was so good. So many characters. I can go through all of them, including when he played the devil, when he played in the Welshly Arms with his lover in the hot tub. I mean, come on. It's so great right there. The Zoolander references. I mean, he's just an excellent actor. And just seeing him in Saturday Night Live, I believe he was there from 95 to 02, something like that. Just absolutely incredible. So when I saw this shirt, I had to wear it. I love it very much. Christopher Walken is great. He's excellent there. Where he says, we all got to make gold-plated diapers at the end. So let me know if you love Saturday Night Live and if you agree with me that Will Ferrell is the most versatile character there is. By the way, let's talk a little business here, because let's get our little doc up and talk about this week, final week of Elite Sports Game Time on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. That's SiriusXM Channel 87. I host that 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern with Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday. And this will actually be the final week of the show. Planned, nothing surprising. I'll talk more about it on the show tomorrow night. Tomorrow night will be our last show. So we've got tonight, we've got tomorrow night, and then Channel's doing some other programming there on Friday, and we're riding off right into the sunset. But it's been a lot of fun hanging out with you, talking live action sports, covering a lot of baseball, covering the awesomeness that was the NBA playoffs, getting you ready for your fantasy football leagues, and bringing on some of our analysts who I thank very much for joining me and Ray on Elite Sports Game Time on SiriusXM, which, by the way, is the little sister show of Jeff Manz's Elite Sports Show, 3 p.m. Eastern on Fantasy Sports Radio. So you can check out Jeff. Ray will be on with Jeff today and then on tonight with me at 8 p.m. Eastern. But I thank Tyler Beaker, Russell Clay, Rich Maletto, who's going to join me in a little bit, Slappy White for joining us, because when it comes down to it, we have a lot to offer beyond football, beyond baseball, beyond what I call the 4 majors, the 4 major sports. We have so much to offer, and seeing and hearing some of our analysts talk about their strategies when building lineups, some of the difficulties that they've faced, they're not afraid to tell you. That's how we learn. It's not all about just give me the picks. It's about learning how to be better at this stuff. And when it comes to being better, Ray Flowers and I did this show. We did a whole 2-hour show on this. We didn't even get to everything that you see right here listed. But about a week ago, I was going through my fantasy football league because I'm trying to get it organized. I want to just get it done with. I don't want to wait until August. I want to set my leagues up right now. I'm also very excited. I'm getting that itch again. fantasy football. And by the way, it's a great time to tell you that when it comes to fantasy football, our content is out. So make sure you go get you some. We've got 5 different packages that we are offering, multiple packages we're offering for fantasy football. Betting, solo, DFS, solo, seasonal, solo, or you can bundle it all up together for a nice value. And you get access to everything, all of our articles, all of our live streams on the site. Yes, besides Fantasy Sports Daily, we do other live streams as well. But to be part of those live streams and to be in on it, you got to become part of the Elite Mafia. And you can do a betting, solo, DFS, season long. You bundle them all up together for a great value. Access to our Discord, which we're very active in. And that's really a lot of the battle these days, is being there for you to answer questions. And we have a slew of analysts, including Jeff Manns, including Ray Flowers. I do some football content as well. Armando Marsal, Russell Clay. I mean, we're all here for you, especially in Discord. So make sure that you're going to sign up. It's going to be a great year. Had a great year last year, and you learn a lot too. You become better at this stuff, and that's something that often goes underrated. And I was thinking about this because when it comes down to fantasy websites and everything that goes with it, what it really comes down to, besides giving the winning picks, which I know in today's culture is the focus. And I understand in general, winning is important, but learning how to win also equally is important. So you can learn how to make these lineup decisions. You can learn what to look for. You can read the analysis provided, and especially with systems and offensive line breakdowns. Those things are important. Your quarterbacks out there, your running backs, they got to be protected a little bit. They need lines to open up gaps for them. Ray Flowers and I talk about it on Elite Sports Game Time all the time with Saquon Barkley, able to have a lot of that success because of his line opening up those gaps. It's very important. Your quarterback's having time to throw and not on the run, scrambling the entire time. Really does make a difference, because if you think about it, and I know this sounds basic, it's really the quality of throws that goes down. So yeah, I mean, we can look at accuracy, but really you got to be looking at which quarterbacks are going to be on the run a lot. And you got to think about that when you're going to be investing in that quarterback. Are they mobile? Do they have the capability to avoid tacklers? Can they score touchdowns on their legs? Is that going to be a component right there? Or is it all about the passing? You got to be careful there. You got to know how that player is going to be hitting their ceiling. We've got everything covered at fantasyguru.com. So make sure you go to the link that you see right there and go get you some. So before we bring on Rich Maletto, I'll talk about a few things here regarding defaults. And this is going to be, for a lot of you, a very basic conversation, but it's something very important, and it's something that, here, I'll leave the link up. It's not blocking anything. It's something that often goes forgotten about. I've been in leagues where the commissioner, which, by the way, everybody knows, being a fantasy sports commissioner is a thankless job. Really is. Now, there are some people that, and I feel it's very unnecessary, because you're the commissioner. You can arguably make the rules, especially if you're starting from scratch. Make the rules how you want. Change the rules technically how you want. And you have that power. And like they say, I believe in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. You're going to be the fall guy a lot. You're going to have to make decisions. You're going to have to make hard decisions. And making those decisions, that's going to give you that power. But at the same time, someone's going to lose. And as the commissioner, you often lose either way because you don't want to upset anyone. It's almost like a full-time job, because you want to make sure your league mates are happy and their investments are protected. And that's why, as a commissioner of one football and one basketball league, I take it very seriously, and I try to not have any issues. And when there are issues, rather than everybody being at each other's throats there's a way we can work around it, talk about it, get the communication going immediately to everybody. I had someone in my basketball league drop Tyrese Halliburton without even realizing it. I don't know if it was a mistake, a miscue. I don't know what happened there, but the league owner with Tyrese Halliburton didn't mean to do that. Didn't even realize that he did that. And I didn't even realize it. Passed over my eyes for a second. And then a few other people in the league are like, how does this happen? And, in a points league for basketball, fantasy basketball, Tyrese Halliburton is massive. You don't just drop him or anything like that unless he's out for the season. But things got together because we've always had good communication in the league. We've never really had anything like that happen, but that's why you got to have rules in place. I immediately had to stop everything, stop pickups, and put it up to a vote on what we do regarding this. That was something that I felt that I had to do, making sure that everybody was aware. You have to make hard decisions as a commissioner. But to make things easier on yourself as a commissioner, instead of just activating the league and saying, great, see you in a month and a half at the draft. Let me know if I have to replace you. Take the time and do it now. Don't cram. Do it now. I know everybody's got everything in their face. We're all living for today. I get that. I understand that. But when a week ago I was thought that my league that I had for a long time didn't renew and maybe got eaten or something by Yahoo, I went to go and set up a new league. And when I was setting up a new league, it's funny because I've talked a lot, whether it's here or Fantasy Sports Radio, when the time is right, and time is right now. Time is now. League setup being very important. I came across a lot of these defaults. And what I'm about to say, by the way, I'm not trying to crap on any website. I'm not at all. Websites make mistakes. Websites have certain rules. And let's face it, when we're playing on Yahoo and ESPN, they can easily close it and put a paywall right there and charge us to play in said leagues. They get stuff out of it too. They get traffic up to their site, which is huge, good for advertising, ads, etc. We all know, I think everybody's pretty privy to how it all works these days when it comes to online media. But at the same time, they can start charging. They don't. So we're kind of at the mercy. When you play in a free league or a free site, you're at the mercy of what they offer. So I'm not saying and talking about these things that you see listed right here to just crap on the site. I'm just saying that if you don't change some of these things or know that they exist, your league isn't going to be set up right. And then what I did to expand it, because I knew I had the show coming up of Elite Sports Game Time, and I thought, why not make a little bit of a topic tree out of this? And I went to ESPN, and I also activated a league and saw all the default settings, and I listed them right here. Some of these things you might be fine with, but I know that a decent chunk of you won't be fine with what you see. And for example, I feel like I'll start with an easy one. ESPN, the draft clock, because I deal with this in one of my leagues, in my family league, because my cousin never changes this. 90-second draft clock, you really don't need. I know some people still play with a 90-second. You really should be playing with a 1-minute clock to keep it moving. You have everything organized. You have your draft queue. Players you want, you put in the queue. You see your queue dwindling. You know what options you have left. So it keeps you organized right there. But maybe you're fine with a 90-second draft clock. For me, I'm a 60-second draft clock. And yeah, it's simple, and it's not really that huge of a debate, but at the same time, you don't go and change that. You're going to have a 90-second draft clock. That's an example right there. People don't think about this stuff. People just think that these leagues are automatically customized to their liking. So something else that we should talk about too, and this is a little bit of a deeper discussion, and that is rosters. For some reason, and I feel like a lot of people, and you guys can let me know in the comments section too, I'm very interested on how all of you play, what specifically you play when it comes to formats and everything like that. And by the way, the more you do that, I kind of gear more of my content on this show towards that a little bit, so I know who is exactly hanging with me every single Wednesday. But 2 wide receiver starting leagues. If that's your thing, that is fine. But I know that there are a lot of you out there who I talk to in Discord, who I talk to on the web, that play 3 wide receivers starting. I have one league that is 2 wide receivers starting, but it also has 2 flexes attached to it, which, by the way, I'm totally fine with. You have 2 wide receivers starting, 2 flexes, that's fine then. But you got to remember, it's not going to default like that because these default settings have 1 flex in that regard and 2 wide receivers. I know, right? Pretty easy things, but these are easy things to miss. I've done it before too. And so that's why I got to make sure you know what you're entering right here. Something else that I find that I'm just not into, and I know I just mentioned that something happened in my league and it was put to a vote. It wasn't a trade though. And I am not of the opinion that when it comes to deciding on trade vetoes, I don't believe in voting on trades. That's not what I'm into. I've seen it work and I've seen it not work. How doesn't it work? Wow, it's the voting, the league's voting. Well, let's start with these defaults right here. So just to let you guys know, I entered, and I guess the default for entering was, the first option was 10-team leagues, which, by the way, on Yahoo, if you just join a league, it's going to max you out at 10 unless you change that. Again, little things that you got to make sure you're maintaining. But then with league voting on Yahoo, Yahoo is a third of the league +1 in order to overturn a trade. So let me explain something to you. Let's say you have a discrepancy, a trade is made, and you put it to a league vote. Well, if you don't make the change yourself and you're in a 12-team league, you're looking at 5 votes of the 12, or I guess it would be even of the 10, so it would be 50%, but 5 votes of everyone. And let's say it's 14, 5 votes of 14 would account for a trade veto or an override. So that right there to me is wrong if you're going to be doing a veto system like that with voting. You won over 50% of the vote. So you got to change it right there. You have to change it. It really shouldn't be all it takes is 3 or 4 people to vote down a trade and then the trade's voted down. No. And I've been part of it the other way where it doesn't work, and it actually doesn't work for collusion reasons. Really doesn't work for collusion reasons. I feel, and again, this puts the commissioner in a very tough spot, but I feel it's the easiest way to do things. And if people don't like your way, and hopefully as a commissioner, you're not just a jerk and try to rig the league, because then if you're like that, if you have a friend that's running these leagues that's like that, a little bit sneaky, they shouldn't be the commissioner of your fantasy football leagues. But I think that trades and any kind of trade vetoing should be up to the commissioner's discretion only. How do you feel about that? Let me know. Why do you think voting is so important? I've been part of it where I've seen trades and leagues get voted down because it's putting the third place. Good trade, fair trade on paper. Multiple times this has happened. Fair trades. But they get voted down because people are greedy. People are selfish. People see the third best team in the league making a smart trade that could send them to the moon. And they're going to vote it down just to vote it down. It takes away the integrity of your fantasy football leagues. If a trade is really that bad, we shouldn't be regularly vetoing trades. We shouldn't have to have that happen. But there are people that try to game the system in life, in everything, and in fantasy sports too, right? You've seen it. Have you not been through it? Well, if you see a team making a deal where it's looking a little lopsided, more where someone's at the bottom of the standings selling off their players for questionable talent, that's a problem right there. You don't know what they could have done. They could have easily made a deal on the side. Hey, trade me Marvin Harrison Jr. Just give me him, and I'll give you, I win, I'll give you 50% of my winnings. I'll give you 30%. You don't know that. Taking the voting away helps prevent that. And yeah, you're putting your trust into the commissioner, but you're also putting your trust into the commissioner that they can handle funds if your league has any kind of compensation attached to it. You're trusting that league commissioner. You absolutely are. And it's a two-way street. I understand that. But if you can trust your commissioner with the financials, then you could trust your commissioner to run a fair league. Because even if the commissioner's team is essentially getting hurt or at least threatened by it, then yeah, that might happen, but it shouldn't change the outcome of a trade. And if a commissioner does that, they should be taken out of power somehow, some way, maybe the following season. But it's very easy to sniff out who's a good commissioner, who's a bad commissioner. Making sure you're checking rosters. And yeah, I could go into doing extras as a commissioner, stuff you shouldn't have to do. But I could talk about maintenance when it comes to your league and making sure those teams that have no shot at making the playoffs at the end of the regular season for fantasy, making sure they're still setting their lineups and not having a bunch of injured guys in there because they don't give a crap because they've been out of it for 4 weeks. That takes away the integrity of the league. Maybe that's not you. Maybe you're, and that's fine. It's, again, a thankless job. And there are some winners that tip the commissioner. I don't think it's necessary. Classy move, but I really don't think it's necessary. You know what you're getting into when you're the commissioner. So that's why, as the commissioner, you have to be careful of all this stuff. Now, let's say you're in a pretty deep league. ESPN's had this issue, but they've raised the maxes now. But if you don't make these changes, you're going to have position limits in drafts. Right now, the defaults, quarterbacks are at 4, running backs are at 8, wide receivers at 8, tight ends at 3. Now, you might be wondering, wow, in my league, am I really ever going to draft 4 quarterbacks? Maybe not in your 1 QB league, but in your 2 QB league, you probably will. You might have a deeper bench there. You might do that. So the pool, you'd want bigger, but you know what? You should be able to have that ability to draft how you want. And I know that there's a little bit of controversy because I say that and people will be like, well, you have to draft a starting lineup, which, look, again, here's something else that I believe, and I've done it and I've been called out for it. And it's really, to me, not a big deal. But if your league still has kicker and defense attached to it, and you want to, instead of drafting a kicker and a defense, you want to just essentially, I don't even want to say punt the position, but maybe stream the positions, both of them. You should be able to use those final 2 draft picks for players. You absolutely should be. ESPN takes that away from you. They take all the players away from you. And I don't understand why it's a problem. If I don't want to prioritize team defense or kicker, why can't I draft an extra running back or 2? I'm doing most of my drafts in the final few weeks before the final week of preseason, in the weeks leading up to the regular season. I'm doing them 2.5 weeks ahead. Every day counts at that point. Why do I have to draft a kicker and a defense just because? I mean, if I don't change my lineup and week 1 comes and I forget and all of a sudden I don't have anyone in either position, oops, that's on you. That's on me. But if I want to use those final draft picks to stash a little bit more and take the extra, whether it's a few days or a couple of weeks, to figure out who to drop, who gives a crap? I should be allowed to. And the old guard in fantasy is, no, you must draft a roster with everyone starting. It's bullcrap. It really is. Total bullcrap. Again, I know a lot of this is very basic, but it's important because if you don't look at this stuff, your leagues aren't going to be set up right. That draft room opens up, 2 wide receivers, boom, that's your format. So you got to make sure you're doing this stuff right now. If you want to play with 3 wide receivers, you have to change it. You want to play with a couple of flexes, you have to change it. You want on ESPN, regular season goes just through week 13. I have a co-host that plays through week 18. He's setting up a league, and he has the regular season going through week 8. That's not right. That's not right. And I'm not trying to crap on the sites. They're free. We're lucky that there are free options. But I'm saying that for you to maximize your league's potential and to stick with all your rules and to make sure you're organized, you've got to change this stuff. Because for me, I'll tell you this much, I'm all about ending a week early. I'm all about ending things in week 17, but I want my regular season to go through week 14, 15, 16, 17, most likely. That's my playoff setup. Even if it was just 4 teams in the playoffs and that's it, 16 and 17. So at that point, if you're someone that only has 4 teams make the playoffs, this default right here on ESPN, you're being robbed, or you're robbing your league of 2 weeks of the regular season. It's very basic and it's very important. Maybe some of you don't think so, but I guarantee you something is going to happen, whether it's one of your leagues or the commissioner of the league that you're in. Something is going to happen, and you're going to come back to me on this stream and be like, Fensty, my commissioner screwed up. They didn't realize the defaults. Well, you did, because you're part of the elite mafia, and you hang with us every single day at noon Eastern on Fantasy Sports Daily. Somebody else that you hang out with at fantasyguru.com joins me every single week. And I want to get his take, especially on some of these league format rules and everything. It's Rich Maletto, the Fantasy Bosco, back with me. What's going on, Rich? How's everything?
It's going. I'm a little discombobulated today, so I apologize. It's been a little bit of a crazy week, but I'm here. I hope you can hear me all well.
I can hear you very well, man. You're good. Thank you so much again. Don't follow him, by the way, on X at Fantasy Bosco. Just remember that. But you can still follow all of his work, whether it's in racing or fantasy football, at fantasyguru.com. Rich, I was trying to think of a way to follow up last week's riveting Cleveland Browns conversation that we had. So I thought about this going into last Friday's Elite Sports Game Time show. You've been a guest on with us throughout the year. The show's ending this week, so I want to thank you again so much. Yeah, it's sad, but you know what, man? You made it happy times when you appeared and talked all things football and racing, and thank you again for all of your appearances here and all you do.
It was an honor, man.
So that's why I thought that I could maybe talk about this with you, because we like just kind of bitching about stuff in general, and that's it. These default conversations I'm having, I know it's elementary, right? Everybody, especially those that are part of a fantasy site and subscribers, they're the most passionate. This should be very obvious. But, Rich, I see it all the time. Leagues get screwed up. And I went through Yahoo and ESPN, and not to crap on them, they're free. These are their defaults, but people aren't going to change these defaults, and they're going to realize it too late when they can't change it, and it's going to ruin their leagues.
I would argue not only that, those 2 sites in general are horrible for even offering reasonable options. I'm not a fan of going to any default. I recommend any commissioner, you go through and you look and you double check and have an idea.
And that's what, by the way, that's what this whole conversation's been about. Where to check and everything.
Yeah. First of all, what I like to do when I create a league is I set up what I'm looking to do with my league, right? What am I looking to accomplish? What are the rosters? All that. And then you go into default and I try to change it to match with what I want. So I start almost with a blank canvas going, what is it I want? And then going to the league, right? If you're trying to hurry up and throw together a work league, I get why you run with the default, but I heard part of what you're saying and you're spot on. You've got to be careful of some of these pitfalls. I mean, I'll give you an example. I am very frustrated with Yahoo, and I will call them out. I have contacted them directly. It bothers me to no end. We as an industry have been pushing people the last 2 to 3, 4, 5 years. Howard's been doing it longer than that. Making waivers a thing on Wednesday nights, not Tuesday nights, which makes all the sense in the world for me. I actually run my leagues where somewhere between 9 and 10 p.m. on a Wednesday is when they run. And the reason I do it for like that, the games of people staying up till or getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to be first on or any of that, I feel like that gets rid of that nonsense. Plus, it gives us the opportunity. Wednesday's practice reports are junk, but we usually have a better idea of who's, if they didn't, the news on Tuesday, the news on Wednesday, that sort of stuff. We have some better insight and knowledge. Not to mention, Monday games just ended. So Monday games ended. Now we're rushing to put together our thoughts on the waivers and how we want to approach. It's all rushed. Well, Yahoo doesn't even give an option to run it on Wednesday or Thursday. The only way they give an option is if you do it daily. Well, but daily waivers are different than once a week, first come, first serve after they clear waivers, right? And I don't understand how hard can it be to have an option to change the day or the date from a Tuesday to a Wednesday, and yet it's not plausible. They can't seem to figure it out.
That is so wild. Dude, I'm literally, because I created like a dummy league, I'm literally looking this up right now. I thought you can change it. You can't change when waivers run on Yahoo. It's just Tuesday and that's it.
Unless you do daily. Their
Right.
response to me was, you can do daily. I'm like, but wait a sec. If I do daily and I can start the daily on Wednesday, I can do a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But if I just want waivers to run once a week on a Wednesday evening into Thursday morning or Wednesday afternoon or whatever, it's not an option.
That's so wild, man. Yeah, I'm looking through this right now. I'm literally on Yahoo. And again, this whole thing, we're trying to just make you aware. Rich, we got to say that. While I know that you were just saying, oh, crap on Yahoo, we also have to be fair on the other side and everything, too. These are free sites. You know, we can easily go to My Fantasy League, which, yeah, the customization is very specific, but you get exactly what you're looking for, but you're paying a premium.
Okay, but Sleeper's free.
Okay. Yeah.
And Sleeper offers, like, I hear where you're coming from, and I understand. I push the envelope as far as people in the industry of pushing back on folks and things, and I don't care to be the bad guy. It doesn't bother me. But free or not, I think something that simple is not unreasonable. And my argument and knock on both ESPN and Yahoo is neither of them has kept up with the times. These are, if you go back and look, these default settings go back to 2002.
They are.
I mean,
and they are. And
they haven't changed.
Well, first of all, Rich is right. Literally, I'm on it right now. Here are your options. Sunday and Tuesday for waiver rules. Sunday to Tuesday, first game of the week to Tuesday, game time to Tuesday. I mean, that, or continuous, which, yeah, there is no Wednesday option. It's funny you say that, man. About 10 years ago or so, when I was producing Jeff Manza's show, the Elite Sports Show on Sirius XM, when I was working with Jeff, I asked Jeff, because we did a lot of our waiver coverage on Wednesday. And I said, Jeff, you know, Tuesday, a lot of people are doing waivers. And like you're saying, waivers should be Wednesday. And I agree with that. But Yahoo's default was Tuesday. And I told him that you're getting a lot of waiver questions today because waivers are running for, felt like back then, the majority were running their waivers Tuesday night into Wednesday instead of Wednesday into Thursday. I'm with you there. I thought on Yahoo there was a way to change it to Wednesday. There is no way to change it.
And double check ESPN. ESPN's goofy on that too. And here's what's really frustrating though. Remember the COVID season where we had the Bills game that got moved and there was the whole fiasco with waivers because
it was a Wednesday, because it was
they
Wednesday
changed it to
game.
a Wednesday and a Thursday for those weeks.
Right. I didn't know how we were going to do that. I was going to have to do that by hand if that ended up messing up. But somehow the sites did a universal shift and tried to make up for that. But how about this, Rich?
It was working great.
Here's what happened. So here's another thing when it comes to these defaults that I'm interested in your opinion on. If you're on ESPN for waivers, if you don't make this change, it will reset each week to the inverse order of the standings. And I can't stand that, man. I can't absolutely stand that. And the reason I can't stand that is, and we'll have Rich come back and everything, the reason I can't stand that is because when it comes to the inverse order of the standings, why shouldn't the teams that are ahead of the game, why should they be punished? That's what I don't understand. It's not even waiver priority in general, because I think waiver priority is very passé. But at the same time, inverse of order of standings, that's a little bit problematic right there. And to me, when it comes down to it, that shouldn't happen. There are certain leagues, and even I guess you can argue it for dynasty leagues and for all intents and purposes, keeper leagues, redraft leagues, it shouldn't be this way. And waiver priority is also outdated too, because when it comes to waiver priority, then you could sit on that number one claim all season. And it actually hurts you a little bit more because you don't want to spend it at the end of the day. You want to kind of keep it rolling. You just don't want to spend it. So that's why, to me, I like that budget. It allows more openness. It allows you to have a chance to spend. You don't have to necessarily, even when an injury occurs, you don't have to put your full budget there. You can work your way through your budget. Make sure there are $0 bids. And I know in the high stakes community, there isn't that. So that's why we want to make sure that we're keeping everything organized, because the inverse of order of the standings just does not work here. Rich, I think we have you back here on audio at least here. Rich, what are your thoughts, Rich Maletto joining me, on the inverse order of standings for waivers?
That's fine if you've got a bunch of newbies and people that don't know how to milk the system.
Right.
Then I see it as a fair way, okay? Because you're trying to allow those at the bottom. However, I'm with you. Give me the fab budget with $0 bids available. In my opinion, that is the most reasonable way to do waivers. What I hate about the constant rolling is it's often determined by the draft order. So if you drafted early, you're going to be at the bottom of the waiver line. If you drafted late in the first round, you're going to be at the top of the waiver line. Well, if you're a guy that trades around and all this and that doesn't get taken into consideration. And even this, and what's interesting, Yahoo, again, you can get away with the whole dropping and picking someone up on Yahoo if you do the $0 bids on Fab. Whereas if you do it as a rolling waiver list, when you drop someone, they aren't available for pickup until after they clear waivers. With the $0 bid, technically, you can still bid on that player and get them.
It's true. Hey, and that's, to me, that's totally fine. I was talking about $0 bids and everything being in there. And again, these are things that you have to change. What about trade voting? I went on an entire tirade, Rich, and this is where I stand on trade voting here. And I'm not with it. And I've been through it. I've seen the positives, but I've also been through the hell with it. And I've seen the collusion that's gone through it. I've experienced the collusion that's gone through voting down trades. And that's why, to me, Rich, you have to, if you're willing to put your finances and your league financial investment in the hands of the commissioner, I think that you can put that full trust into the commissioner too, to make sure that they can run this league fairly.
I don't believe in voting down any trades.
None. Oh, interesting. So
None.
Every trade that's made goes through, no matter, even if it's lopsided.
Here's my problem with the lopsidedness. One, we're predicting the future. I don't know how many trades I've been in where I thought for sure I got the landslide best into the deal. And within a year to 2 years, yeah, that's not the case at all. And if the argument is, well, this guy really pushed and this guy makes bad trades, then you need to either help them learn to trade better or replace them. It's just like anything else. Do we punish people because they're better at something than somebody else? That's kind of the antithesis of competition to me. The only reason to veto a trade, the only reason would be collusion. And so my argument is, if you truly believe it's collusion, that is grounds for removal from the league, period, point blank, no, end of discussion. There's no need to veto trades. If you believe collusion took place, you can prove it, then those people need to be out of the league and there's no point in having it. So I do not believe in vetoing any trades. I think it brings bias into it.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Have you ever been in a league, though, where there's been clearly a lopsided trade where people might be doing a deal together on the side? Have you been through that at all?
So I've been in deals where people got called and said, vote down this trade, right? The collusion aspect of not voting for the trade to letting it pass. I have been in leagues where collusion was suggested, but then after talking to the parties involved, it became very clear, at least in my opinion, there was no collusion. It was just a vast difference in evaluation of players. We see people get bowled all the time. I want nothing to do with Travis Kelce. He's nothing worth but a 5th-round pick to me. Someone else may see him as a 1st-round pick. So if this dude's getting a 2nd-round pick for him, he thinks he's getting a value because he's willing to pay a 1st, and the guy receiving it's willing to do it for a 4th or 5th. Who are we to say which one's right or wrong? We could argue that it's lopsided, but are we? Are we right? So I I feel like that just opens up too many cans of worms. And I've told people in leagues I run, there is no voting on trades. If you think a trade is lopsided, then start making trades with the guy that you felt like gave up too much.
Just keep taking advantage of him at that
Well,
point.
I mean, here's the deal. Either everyone takes advantage of quote unquote the mark, right?
Right.
Or the mark gets better. It's one or the other. Or
Right.
they leave, right? So to me, all it fosters is discussion, debate on BS when we don't know what the future holds. We don't know when injuries are going to happen. We don't know coaching changes. If you really feel like this one player does good and this other one does bad, then raise your game up or help them out. Just saying, oh no, this isn't fair. Fair is what you pay to ride a bus. Fantasy football is the only place I know of where it's encouraged to screw over your friends.
See, and that's the thing, man. That's why when it comes to me, I'm all about the commissioner's discretion there because I don't want anyone screwed over.
Yeah, but isn't that what everybody tries to do when they trade? Isn't everybody that's trying to trade trying to fleece somebody else?
I don't agree with that.
See, I think everyone's trying to get a one up on someone else. I see it with all the questions we get. People rarely start off with the question, and I heard Ratcliffe mention this on the radio today or yesterday. Rarely hear people start with what their goal is of the trade. All they're usually doing is chasing action or trying to fleece. How many times do we get asked, who won this trade? Who won this trade? That's why I refuse to answer the question, because in my opinion, I'm fostering this idea of you trying to fleece somebody else. I'm in sales. My job is to sell something you need or can benefit from. I'm going to profit from it, but I shouldn't profit to the point of bringing in all sorts of money that is unnecessary. It needs to be a fair deal on both sides. And I rarely see anybody that does a trade where they try to go for a win-win on both sides. Even the best traders I know openly admit, I'm trying to squeeze a little more, So from that perspective, I think everybody is trying to one up, get their best in, and they don't care if it hurts the other party.
Yeah, and a lot of people do that, Rich, and I'm sure in our Discord at fantasyguru.com, you're seeing that a lot of people are being offered these ridiculous 4 mediocre players for one pretty good one, just so they can get rid of some of the crap on their team. I'll say this, though, man. As much as I love fantasy sports, and I love fantasy sports, I can't stand trading. When I have to trade, it's because I am admitting defeat, that the waiver wire can't save me. I got to make a move, but I'm going to try and do my damn best to trade from that position of strength. And if me and Rich Maletto are making a trade and you happen to have a surplus of running backs, I happen to have a surplus of wide receivers, and we do a little swap, and it just so happens that, you know what? Yeah, you know what? You might have gotten the better player, arguably, but I fulfilled a major need on my team that makes my team whole. We both win.
And I think that's what the goal of trading would be. And I would argue that's less than 5% of trades that happen. That's why I don't trade. I absolutely despise trading. I really do. If you're a trade fan, Dynasty's where it's at, not redraft.
Yes.
And that's why I always say, if you're going to come at me with trade questions, I expect you to be able to answer some basic things. One, what's your goal? You should have a set goal. In your example there, Fancy, was I needed this position I'm short on. I'm loaded at this position. That's how trading should work. But we all have those guys in the leagues where you offer them something fair. It's good for both teams, and they got to squeeze you for more.
Right.
Constantly. They got.
I hear you, and I'm more of a, and I'm with you, and it happens too much. I don't people like trading just to trade. I talk to people that don't keep a foundation because all they do is trade, and they think it's fun trying to play as the role as the GM and trading. And that's the last thing I want to do, because you can't build a foundation when you're constantly moving pieces. And when you're making, and for me, when it comes down to it and making the trade, I don't want to do, if someone comes to me, hey, let's make a trade, don't waste my time with that. You come to me and be like, hey, I see you're dealing with running back injuries. Are you interested in these guys? Yes. Okay. Offer me something. Let me know. That's the conversation.
I think you're spot on. And I'll give a perfect example. I can't stand when we get trade questions about swapping players, like same position, my head wants to explode. Because to me, there's only two reasons to trade: to fill a need that you can't with the waiver wire. Usually that's what the waiver wire is for, but there are times when that's not possible. And in order to be competitive, you need to fix something, an injury or something like that. Or it's to upgrade a position or player, a clear upgrade. Now, you can do that without fleecing somebody. And I don't think people understand that. They feel like in order to get that upgrade, they need to have all these studs and they need to find a way to sell it or pitch it to make it happen. But the bottom line is, if you're not trading with those goals in mind, then you're trading to trade. And I don't see how swapping players at the same position fulfills either one of those goals.
Yeah. I mean, and I get that. I mean, you could maybe because again, rankings are rankings and everything like that, but there is sometimes general interest for a player that could be drawn in a 1-for-1 swap just because they like that receiver a lot better. That's fine to float it out. But again, Rich and I are on the same page with all of this. Trade out of need, not desire. Been saying that for years. Make the trades when you have to, not just because you want to squeeze the orange and get the most juice as possible or what you think it is out of fantasy sports and especially fantasy football. Rich Maletto, give him, or rather don't follow him, at Fantasy Bosco on X. Rich, what's coming up on the site for you?
So we got NASCAR again this week. It's really just a lot of NASCAR till we get into the nitty-gritty of football season. The My Draft Guide content is already out there with the scoring dependency and some of the other stuff, the drafting strategies. There's an article in the Fantasy Guru magazine. It doesn't have my name on it, but it's in there. But all of the staff contributed there. The names are a little mixed up in there, but I highly recommend reading it. There's excellent content in there. And then we will be doing NASCAR. It is a Chicago street course weekend, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it is what it is.
Rich Maletto again at Fantasy Bosco, if you dare. Rich, thank you so much for stopping by, man. Rich Maletto from fantasyguru.com here joining me. I'm going to spend some time here talking a little bit more about NBA free agency. A few of you are asking me, and I have, by the way, the Fantasy Basketball Diaries podcast that is out, or that is going to be out. Rather, you could go and check out previous episodes where I talk the beginnings of NBA free agency and everything. But we've seen a lot of player movement and a lot of interesting things that have happened. I'll bring this back up so you can see some of the players as of late here. And I'm wondering if we're necessarily done. And with that, Myles Turner going to the Milwaukee Bucks. Man, to me, that was shocking. This guy's been a Pacer for life, thought he was going to remain with the team. Somehow they were going to figure that out. But they were really the Bucks, because the Pacers have to now figure out how they're going to handle things, because they're going to be without Tyrese Halliburton for the season. So they lose Myles Turner to Milwaukee. And as soon as I saw the deal where he's getting over $100 million, I'm thinking to myself, how are they affording all this with everything they had? And then about 3 minutes later, Damian Lillard is waived. And he's fine with it and everything. Jonas is kind of pissed about it. But what they did was, what Milwaukee did, because he had a couple years on his contract, they're taking it as a dead cap hit, extending the payment. So it's not all in one shot. They're extending the payments out for the next few years, and that's how it's going to hit their cap. So they were able to afford Myles Turner because short term they got more money. But now moving forward, this is the squad they're going to end up with, and we're not going to see Damian Lillard play next season. But I'm interested to see who goes after him. Immediately, I think about Miami, although they do have Tyler Hero there, so I'm wondering if they're going to continue rolling with him. I also think about teams like the Brooklyn Nets that are trying to build up and really try to start from scratch. And now you've got yourself a proven scoring guard, although injuries haven't been his friend over the last year and a half. It's still a proven scoring guard, and being that he's on the open market, and you take the hit for a little bit, for at least for a year if you have to, and then he comes back and he's able to stud out on a team that's in total rebuild mode. It's a great market for him. So if I'm the Nets, I'm interested. I also saw that the Warriors were potentially interested in him. So that'll be interesting to see where Damian Lillard ends up. But guys like him, Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton are going to be missing the regular season after tearing their Achilles in the postseason. Just you hate to see it right there. Other moves of interest that I'll talk about, and this goes into the Rockets right now, who are plus 700 to win the NBA championship. The Rockets are really going for it. I didn't anticipate them being this active. I kind of already thought they were a set team, but then they added more. And this was after they traded for Kevin Durant, which was already a very solid move. They extend Jabari Smith, which I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't really understand, because now you're looking at a situation where they still have Tari Eason, who plays very good defense. They signed Dorian Finney-Smith, another good wing defender and a good three-point shooter. And you also have now on the team Clint Capella. So they extended Steven Adams, gave him a contract. They extended Jabari Smith. They're rocking and rolling. We're going to obviously see Reed Shepherd get more playing time this year. Too much of a logjam at the guard. But this Rockets team is looking good. I'm liking this. If Kevin Durant stays healthy and can play 65, 70 games, let's just say 70 games, he can play that. That's going to be good. Jabari Smith plays all right defense. When it comes to his offense, I could take it or leave it. He's just another spacer that needs to also learn that he can utilize his high post moves too. Getting organized by getting the ball at the elbow and then working his way inside, whether it's backing your way in or trying a little spin move twist to go up with a running one-hander to be able to score. We have to see those post moves. He can't just be relying on set shooting and shooting from long range. He needs to be doing more. But Alperen Sengun is getting a lot of help here. It's making me wonder, too, if Sengun at times is going to be in at the 4, and then you'll have one of Steven Adams or Clint Capella there at the 5. So I was very surprised that they ended up getting Clint Capella after all they did. But they're ready to rock and roll. They traded Jalen Green, which, take it or leave it, I mean, his defense was improving, but his shooting was very inconsistent. So for me, when it comes down to this Houston Rockets team, they are very impressive. And I'm interested to see how Kevin Durant gels. But having a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith there, a nice veteran, helps. He'll be able, Durant, I think, to maybe help out Tari Eason and teach him how to provide a little bit more of his own offense. So the Rockets, for the offseason that they're having, they have had a very, very impressive offseason. I was pretty surprised with a lot of these moves. Unfortunately for the Memphis Grizzlies, the injuries just can't escape them. After trading Desmond Bane and was wondering what they were going to do with Jaren Jackson Jr., I kind of thought at one point they were going to get rid of him too. But they end up giving him a major max extension. And then the same day, hours later, he hurts his toe to the point where, not while he was at the facility or anything like that in Memphis, he hurts his toe to the point where now we don't know when we're going to see this newly maxed Jaren Jackson Jr. We don't know when we're going to see him play. I'm hearing everything from 4 months from now to 5 months from now. We might not see him until January. I think we'll see him before January, but whatever this toe is and this foot issue is that now he needs a procedure. So that just sucks when it comes to the Memphis Grizzlies. Just you wonder what he's doing right there. I mentioned the Nets before. The Nets end up making a trade where, does it to me move the needle? We'll have to wait and see. But Cam Johnson going to Denver. And he's going to be with Aaron Gordon in the high post now. And going back to Brooklyn, Michael Porter Jr., which hard guy to rely on, but if he can stay healthy and he attacks the rim, he could be very, very lethal. So I'll keep you up to date. I'll have a whole podcast out. Fantasy Basketball Diaries will be out tomorrow. Also tomorrow night, our very last Elite Sports Game Time on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. It'll be me and Ray Flowers. Ray will be on with Jeff Mans on Elite Sports today, 3 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you do not miss it. And I want to thank you all for hanging out with me. I want to thank Rich Maletto for joining me. Ray Flowers back tomorrow, talking all things football and some baseball too, right here on Fantasy Sports Daily on the Elite Plus Network, powered by FantasyGuru.com.